Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Sahodidao Gododai Pushpabandal Chitral Sandal Tamonudao. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, who are just like the sun and the moon. They have arisen simultaneously on the horizon of God to dissipate the darkness of ignorance in this age of Kali and to wonderfully bestow benediction upon all. Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakti-upasrupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam Jayatam Sutal Pangur Mama Manda Mater Gati Matsarasvapadam Boja Matsarasvapadam Boja Madan Mohana. Glory to the all-merciful Radha and Madan Mohan. I am lame and ill-advised, yet they are my directors, and their lotus feet are everything to me. Divyad Vrindaranya Kalpa Jumada Sri Madhvatnagara Sinasanastel Sri Madhvada Sri Govinda Deval Pistali B Siddhamane Smarami. In a temple of jewels in a forest of Vrindavan, sitting beneath the desire tree, Sri Radha and Govinda, served by their most confidential associates, sit upon an effulgent throne. I offer my respectful obeisances unto them. Shri Man Rasa Rambi Vam Sivata Tatastita Karshan Venu Saner Gopir Gopinata Shri Stuna. Sri Srila Gopinath, who is the originator of the transcendental mellow of the Rasa dance, stands upon the shore at Vamsivat and attracts all the cowherd damsels of Vrindavan with the sound of his celebrated flute. May they all confer upon us their benediction. So, chapter 11, Antya-lila, Sri Caitanya Charitamrita, the passing of Haridasa Thakura. Today is March 27th, 2021. The summary of the chapter is given by Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur in his Amrita Pravaha Bhasya as follows. In this chapter, Brahma Haridasa Thakur gave up his body with the consent of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, and the Lord himself personally performed the funeral ceremony and carried the body to the sea. He personally entombed the body, covered it with sand, and erected a platform on the site. After taking bath in the sea, he personally baked prasad of Jagannath from shopkeepers and distributed prasad to the assembled devotees. I'll mention, this talks about a memorial to Haridasa Thakur in Jagannath Puri. My first visit to India, I've been there 9 times, almost always to conduct seminars of various types. My first visit to India was 1988, and I was with a group, and we did spend 2 days or so in the Bhubaneswar Jagannath Puri area, and we visited the Bhajan Kutir, the humble place of residence of Hari Thakur, and we visited this memorial on the sea. Hare Krishna Ramachandra. We're reading from chapter 11, the passing of Haridasa Thakur, Antya-lila, Caitanya Charitamrita. Text 1. Namami Haridasam tam Chaitanyam tam chatat prabhum samstitam apiyan mortim svanke kritva nanartaya. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto Haridasa Thakur and his master, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, who danced with the body of Haridasa Thakur on his lap. Yes. Probably a picture of that here. And we'll read about it. I'm not sure how far we'll get, but okay. Yes. Oh, okay.
You want to show the picture?
Well, okay. Right. I'm sure. Right now, what I see is this picture of Lord Chaitanya glorifying the qualities of Thakur to the other devotees. Haridasa Thakur is getting elderly, and you can see that. And so this is like, we're going to read that Haridasa Thakur, he was about to leave his body, and he's just meditating on Lord Caitanya. And Lord Chaitanya is glorifying his qualities. As far as Lord Chaitanya dancing with his body, we do have a picture of that in the other volume. Maybe as we go on this evening, we'll show that picture. In the big red 1-volume edition, I know there's a picture of that. Okay. Right, but okay, very good. So, Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya, Jaya Doya Maya, Jaya Vaita Priya Nityananda Priya Jaya. All glories to Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is very merciful and who is very dear to Advaitacharya and Lord Nityananda. Jaya Srinivaseshvara Haridasa Nata, Jaya Gadadhara Priya Svarupa Prananata. All glories to the master of Srinivas Thakur. All glories to the master of Haridas Thakur. All glories to the dear master of Gadadhar Pandit. All glories to the master of the life of Svarup Damodar. Jaya Kashi Priya Jagadananda Praneshwar, Jaya Rupa Sanatana Raghunateshwar. All glories to Lord Sri Chaitanya, who is very dear to Kashi Mishra. He is the Lord of the life of Jagadananda and the Lord of Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami and Raghunath Das Goswami. Jaya Gora Deha Krishna Svayam Bhagavan Kripakari Deha Prabhu Nija Padadan. All glories to the transcendental form of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is Krishna himself, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. My dear Lord, kindly give me shelter at your lotus feet by your causeless mercy. Jaya Nityananda Chandra, Jaya Chaitanya Prana, Tomara Charnara Vinde Bhakti Dehadana. All glories to Lord Nityananda, who is the life and soul of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. My dear Lord, kindly give me engagement in devotional service at your lotus feet. Jaya Jaya Advaita Chandra Chaitanya Arya Svacharane Bhakti Deha Jaya Advaita Charya. All glories to Advaita Charya, who is treated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as superior due to his age and respectability. Please give me engagement in devotional service at your lotus feet. Jaya Gora Bhaktagana Gora Yanra Prana Sabha Bhakta Mili More Bhakti Dehadana. All glories to all the devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, for the Lord is their life and soul. All of you kindly bestow devotional service upon me. Jaya Rupa Sanatana Jiva Raghunath Raghunatha Gopala Chaya Moranath. All glories to Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, Jiva Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami, Raghunath Bhatt Goswami, and Gopal Bhatt Goswami, the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. They are all my masters. I am writing this narration of the pastimes and attributes of the Lord by the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates. I do not know how to write properly, but I am purifying myself by writing this description. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu thus resided at Jagannath Puri with his personal devotees and enjoyed the congregational chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. In the daytime, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu engaged in dancing and chanting and in seeing the temple of Lord Jagannath. At night, in the company of his most confidential devotees, such as Ramananda Roy and Swarup Damodar Goswami, he tasted the nectar of the transcendental mellows of Lord Sri Krishna's pastimes. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu very happily passed his days in this way at Nilachala, Jagannath Puri. Feeling separation from Krishna, he exhibited many transcendental symptoms all over his body. Dine, dine, bade, vikara, ratre, atishaya, chinta udvega, pralapadi, yata, shastre, kaya. Day after day, the symptoms increased, and at night they increased even more. All these symptoms, such as transcendental anxiety, agitation, and talking like a madman, were present just as they are described in the Shastras. Swarup Damodar Goswami and Ramananda Roy, the chief assistants in Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes remained with him both day and night. One day, Govinda, the personal servant of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, went in great jubilation to deliver the remnants of Lord Jagannath's food to Haridasa Thakura. When Govinda came to Haridasa, he saw Haridasa Thakura was lying on his back and chanting his rounds very slowly. "Please rise and take your Mahaprasad," Govinda said. Haridasa Thakura replied, "Today I shall observe fasting. I have not yet finished chanting my regular number of rounds. How then can I eat? But you have brought Mahaprasad, and how can I neglect it?" Saying this, he offered prayers to the Mahaprasad, took a little portion, and ate it. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Mahaprasad is non-different from Krishna. Therefore, instead of eating Mahaprasad, one should honor him. It is said here, Karila Vandana, he offered prayers. When taking Mahaprasad, one should not consider the food ordinary preparations. Prasad means favor. One should consider Mahaprasad a favor of Krishna. As stated by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Krishna Boyadaya Mai, Karibari Jivajai, Saprasad Dilo Mai. Krishna is very kind. In this material world, we are all very attached to tasting various types of food. Therefore, Krishna eats many nice varieties of food and offers the food back to the devotees, so that not only are one's demands for various tastes satisfied, but by eating prasad, he makes advancement in spiritual life. Therefore, we should never consider ordinary food on an equal level with Mahaprasad. Aradina Mahaprabhu Tanratani Oila Sustaha Haridasa Balitanre Puchila. The next day, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu went to Haridasa's place and inquired from him, "Haridas, are you well?" Haridas offered his obeisances to the Lord and replied, "My body is all right, but my mind and intelligence are not well." Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu further inquired from Haridas, "Can you ascertain what your disease is?" Haridas Thakur replied, "My disease is that I cannot complete my rounds." Purport: if one cannot complete the fixed number of rounds he is assigned, he should be considered to be in a diseased condition of spiritual life. Srila Haridas Thakur is called Namacharya. Of course, we cannot imitate Haridas Thakur, but everyone must chant a prescribed number of rounds. In our Krishna consciousness movement, we have fixed 16 rounds as the minimum so that the Westerners will not feel burdened. These 16 rounds must be chanted and chanted loudly so that one can hear himself and others. So, of course, if we chant one mantra in this lifetime, one Hare Krishna Maha mantra, that's wonderful. And Prabhupada recommends that if we're serious to get out of material existence and really get out of the material world and realize that each day we're realizing who we are, spirit, soul, servants of Krishna, then he recommends that we voluntarily vow for at least 16 rounds per day to really make progress every day. Prabhu kahe vrita hoila sankhya alpakara sitha deha tumi sadhane agraha kenikara. Now that you have become old, the Lord said, you may reduce the number of rounds you chant daily. You are already liberated, and therefore you need not follow the regulative principles very strictly. Purport: unless one has come to the platform of spontaneous love of God, he must follow the regulative principles. Thakur Haridas was the living example of how to follow the regulative principles. Similarly, Raghunath Das Goswami was also such a living example. In the Sad Goswamiastika, it is stated, Sankhya Purvaka Namagana Nati Kalavasani Krita. The Goswamis, especially Raghunath Das Goswami, strictly followed all the regulative principles. The first regulative principle is that one must chant the Hare Krishna Maha mantra loudly enough so that he can hear himself, and one must vow to chant a fixed number of rounds. Not only was Raghunath Das Goswami chanting a fixed number of rounds, but he had also taken a vow to bow down many times and offer obeisances to the Lord. Yeah, it's Prabhupada generally recommended Better let's say if we commit to 1 round and follow that, and then when we're ready, we increase. That's better than I chanted 108 rounds. I chanted 64 rounds, and then over the past few months, I haven't been chanting at all. That, of course, again, any chanting of Hare Krishna we do is for our eternal benefit. But Prabhupada often emphasized better to be a steady moon in the sky than a shooting star. So to be steady from wherever we're at and to stretch ourselves to gradually increase. Hare Krishna. Yeah, Hare Krishna. Okay. So Lord Chaitanya continues to speak to Haridasa. Your role in this incarnation is to deliver the people in general. You have sufficiently preached the glories of the holy name in this world. Eve alpa sankhyakai kara sankirtana Haridasa kai sunamora sachanivedana. The Lord concluded, now therefore, please reduce the fixed number of times you chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Haridasa Thakura replied, kindly hear my real plea. I was born in an inferior family, and my body is most abominable. I always engage in low work. Therefore, I am the lowest, most condemned of men. I am unseeable and untouchable, but you have accepted me as your servant. This means that you have delivered me from a hellish condition and raised me to the Vaikuntha platform. So Haridasa Thakur is so elevated, and he's truly feeling himself as inferior, abominable, lowest, most condemned of men. He's truly feeling himself that way. This is spiritual humility, not an artificial show. My dear Lord, you are the fully independent personality of Godhead. You act by your own free will. You cause the whole world to dance and act as you like. My dear Lord, by your mercy, you have made me dance in many ways. For example, I was offered the Shraddha Patra that should have been offered to first-class Brahmins. I ate from it even though I was born in a family of meat eaters. I have had one desire for a very long time. I think that quite soon, my Lord, you will bring to a close your pastimes within this material world. I wish that you not show me this closing chapter of your pastimes. Before that time comes, kindly let my body fall down in your presence. I wish to catch your lotus-like feet upon my heart and see your moon-like face. With my tongue I shall chant your holy name, Shri Krishna Caitanya. That is my desire. Kindly let me give up my body in this way. Oh, most merciful Lord, if by your mercy it is possible, kindly grant my desire. Let this low-born body fall down before you. You can make possible this perfection of all my desires. Prabhu kahe Haridasa ye tumi makibe, Krishna kripa moyataha avasya karibe. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu said, my dear Haridas, Krishna is so merciful that he must execute whatever you want. But whatever happiness is mine is all due to your association. It is not fitting for you to go away and leave me aside. Catching the lotus feet of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, Haridasa Thakur said, my Lord, do not create an illusion. Although I am so fallen, you must certainly show me this mercy. Mora Shiro Mani Kata Kata Mahashaya Tomarali Lara Sahaya Koti Bhakta Hoya. My Lord, there are many respectable personalities, millions of devotees who are fit to sit on my head. They are all helpful in your pastimes. My Lord, if an insignificant insect like me dies, what is the loss? If an ant dies, where is the loss to the material world? My Lord, you are always affectionate to your devotees. I am just an imitation devotee, but nevertheless, I wish that you fulfill my desire. That is my expectation. Because he had to perform his noon duties, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu got up to leave, but it was settled that the following day, after he saw Lord Jagannath, he would return to visit Haridasa Thakur. After embracing him, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left to perform his noon duties and went to the sea to take his bath. The next morning, after visiting the Jagannath temple, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, accompanied by all his other devotees, came hastily to see Haridasa Thakur. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the other devotees came before Haridasa Thakur, who offered his respects to the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and all the Vaishnavas. Prabhu kahe Haridasa kaha samachara, Haridasa kahe Prabhu ye kripa tumara. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu inquired, my dear Haridas, what is the news? Haridas Thakur replied, my Lord, whatever mercy you can bestow upon me. Angane Arambila Prabhu Mahasan Kirtana Bakreshwara Pandita Tahan Karena Nartana. Upon hearing this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu immediately began great congregational chanting in the courtyard. Bakreshwar Pandit was the chief dancer. Headed by Swarup Damodar Goswami, all the devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu surrounded Haridas Thakur and began congregational chanting. In front of all the great devotees like Ramananda Roy and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to describe the holy attributes of Haridas Thakur. As he described the transcendental attributes of Haridas Thakur, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu seemed to possess 5 mouths. The more he described, the more his great happiness increased. Haridasera gune sabara vismita hoyamana sarva bhakta vande Haridasera charana. After hearing of the transcendental qualities of Haridas Thakur, all the devotees present were struck with wonder. They all offered their respectful obeisances to the lotus feet of Haridas Thakur. Haridas Thakur made Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sit down in front of him, and then he fixed his eyes like 2 bumblebees on the lotus face of the Lord. Swaridaye Antya-lila Prabhura Charana Sarva Bhakta Padarenu Mastaka Bhushana. He held the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu on his heart, and then took the dust of the lotus feet of all the devotees present and put it on his head. He began to chant the holy name of Sri Krishna Chaitanya again and again. As he drank the sweetness of the face of the Lord, tears constantly glided down from his eyes. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Shabda Karite Ucharana Namnera Sahita Prana Koila Utkramana. While chanting the holy name of Sri Krishna Chaitanya, he gave up his air of life and left his body. Seeing the wonderful death of Haridas Thakur by his own will, which was just like a great mystic yogi's, everyone remembered the passing away of Bhishma. There was a tumultuous noise as they all chanted the holy names Hari and Krishna. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became overwhelmed with ecstatic love. The Lord raised the body of Haridas Thakur and placed it on his lap. Then he began to dance in the courtyard in great ecstatic love. Because of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's ecstatic love, all the devotees were helpless. And in ecstatic love, they also began to dance and chant congregationally. E mate nritya prabhu korla katakshana swarupago sani prabhure karela savadana. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu danced for some time, and then Swarup Damodar Goswami informed him of other rituals for the body of Thakur Haridas. Haridasa Thakureta be vimane chadana samudre lanagila tabe kirtana kariya. The body of Haridas Thakur was then raised onto a carrier that resembled an airship and taken to the sea, accompanied by congregational chanting. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu danced in front of the procession, and Vakreshwar Pandit, along with the other devotees, chanted and danced behind him. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu bathed the body of Haridas Thakur in the sea and then declared, from this day on, this sea has become a great pilgrimage site. Everyone drank the water that had touched the lotus feet of Haridas Thakur, and then they smeared remnants of Lord Jagannath's sandalwood pulp over Haridas Thakur's body. After a hole was dug in the sand, the body of Haridas Thakur was placed in it. Remnants from Lord Jagannath, such as his silken ropes, sandalwood pulp, food, and cloth, were placed on the body. All around the body, the devotees performed congregational chanting, and Vakreshwar Pandit danced in jubilation. With his transcendental hands, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally covered the body of Haridasa Thakur with sand, chanting Haribo, Haribo. They covered the body of Haridasa Thakur with sand and then constructed a platform upon the site. The platform was protected all around by fencing. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu danced and chanted all around the platform, and as the holy name of Hari roared tumultuously, the whole universe became filled with the vibration. Tabe Mahaprabhu Sama Bhakta Gana Sange Samudre Kavila Snana Jala Keli Range. After Sankirtan, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu bathed in the sea with his devotees swimming and playing in the water in great jubilation. After circumambulating the tomb of Haridasa Thakur, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to the Singadwar gate of the Jagannath temple. The whole city chanted in congregation, and the tumultuous sound vibrated all over the city. Simhadvare asi prabhu pasariratani anshala patiya prasada magila tatai. Approaching the Singhadvara gate, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spread his cloth and began to beg prasad from all the shopkeepers there. Haridasa Thakura Mahod Savera Tare Prasada Magiye Bhiksha Deha Tamare. I am begging prasad for a festival honoring the passing away of Haridasa Thakur, the Lord said. Please give me alms. Shunya Pasari Sabha Changada Utana Pasaradite Tarananditona. Hearing this, all the shopkeepers immediately came forward with big baskets of prasad, which they jubilantly delivered to Lord Chaitanya. Sarupa Gosani Pasarike Nishedila Changada Lana Pasare Vasila. However, Swarup Damodar stopped them, and the shopkeepers returned to their shops and sat down with their baskets. Swarup Damodar sent Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu back to his residence and kept with him 4 Vaishnavas and 4 servant carriers. Swarup Damodar said to all the shopkeepers, "Deliver to me 4 palmfuls of prasad from each and every item." In this way, varieties of prasad were collected, then packed up in different loads and carried on the heads of the 4 servants. Not only did Swarup Damodar Goswami bring prasad, but Vaninath Patanayak as well as Kashi Mishra sent large quantities. Sabha Vaisnave Prabhu Vasa Ila Sari Sari Apane Pariveshe Prabhu Lana Janachari. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu made all the devotees sit in rows and personally began to distribute the prasad, assisted by 4 other men. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was not accustomed to take prasad in small quantities. He therefore put on each plate what at least 5 men could eat. Swarup Damodar Goswami requested Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, "Please sit down and watch. With these men to help me, I shall distribute the prasad." The 4 men, Swarup, Jagadananda, Kashishvara, and Sankara, distributed the prasad continuously. All the devotees who sat down would not accept the prasad as long as the Lord had not eaten. On that day, however, Kashi Mishra had extended an invitation to the Lord. Therefore, Kashi Mishra personally went there and delivered prasad to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with great attention and made him eat. With Paramananda Puri and Brahmananda Bharati, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sat down and accepted the prasad. When he began to eat, so did all the Vaishnavas. Akanta Purana Sabaya Karaila Bhojana Deha Bali Prabhu Balena Vachana. Everyone was filled up to the neck because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu kept telling the distributors, "Give them more, give them more. Bhojana Kariya Sabe Koila Achmana Sabare Paraila Prabhu Malya Chandana, after all the devotees finished accepting prasad and had washed their hands and mouths, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu decorated each of them with a flower garland and sandalwood pulp. Overwhelmed with ecstatic love, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu offered a benediction to all the devotees, which all the devotees heard with great satisfaction. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave this benediction. Anyone who has seen the festival of Sri Haridasa Thakur's passing away, anyone who has chanted and danced here, anyone who has offered sand on the body of Haridasa Thakur, and anyone who has joined this festival to partake of the prasad will achieve the favor of Krishna very soon. There is such Jai Hare Krishna. There is such wonderful power in seeing Haridasa Thakur. Kripa Kare Krishna More Antya-lila Sangha Swatantra Krishnara Icha Koila Sangha Banga. Being merciful upon me, Krishna gave me the association of Haridasa Thakur. Being independent in his desires, he has now broken that association. Haridasera Ichaya Beha Ila Chalite Amarasha Kate Tanre Narila Rakite. When Haridasa Thakur wanted to leave this material world, it was not within my power to detain him. Simply by his will, Haridasa Thakur could give up his life and go away, exactly like Bhishma, who previously died simply by his own desire, as we have heard from Shastra. Haridasa Chila Pritivira Shiromani Taha Vina Ratna Shunya Haila Medini. Haridasa Thakur was the crown jewel on the head of this world. Without him, this world is now bereft of its valuable jewel. Jai Jai Haridasa Balikara Haridvani Etabali Mahaprabhu Nachena Apani. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then told everyone, say, all glories to Haridasa Thakur, and chant the holy name of Hari. Saying this, he personally began to dance. Sabagaya Jaya 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 Haridas Namera Mahima Karila Prakash. Everyone began to chant all glories to Haridasa Thakur, who revealed the importance of chanting the holy name of the Lord. Thereafter, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu bid farewell to all the devotees, and he himself, with mixed feelings of happiness and distress, took rest. Thus I have spoken about the victorious passing away of Haridasa Thakur. Anyone who hears this narration will certainly fix his mind firmly in devotional service to Krishna. And now the purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada writes, at Purushok Kshetra, or Jagannath Puri, there is a temple of Tota Gopinath. If one goes from there to the sea, he can discover the tomb of Haridasa Thakur still existing. Every year on the date of Ananta Chaturdashi, there is a festival to commemorate the passing away of Haridasa Thakur. At the same place, 3 deities of Nityananda, Krishna Chaitanya, and Advaita Prabhu were established about 100 years ago. A gentleman named Brahmaravara from Kendrapada in the province of Orissa contributed funds to establish these deities in the temple. The management of the temple was under the Tota Gopinath Goswamis. The temple was later sold to someone else, and this party is now maintaining the Seva Puja of the temple. Near this temple and the tomb of Haridasa Thakur, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur constructed a small house called Bhakti Kuti. In the Bengali year 1329, Purushottam Mat, a branch of the Gaudiya Mat, was established there. In the Bhakti Ratnakar, it is stated, Srinivasa Shigra Samudra Kulegela Haridasa Thakurera Samadhi Tequila Bhumite Padiya Koila Pranati Vistara Bhagavata Ganashri Samadhi Sanidane Srinivasa Stira Koila Sasneha Bachane Puna Srinivasa Shri Samadhi Pranamiya Yevilappa Koilata Srinile Dravehya. Quote, Srinivas Thakur quickly ran to the seashore. When he saw the tomb of Haridasa Thakur, he immediately fell down offering prayers, and almost fainted. The devotees present there pacified him with very sweet and affectionate words, and Srinivasa again offered his obeisances to the tomb. Hearing of the separation that Srinivasa expressed in his lamentation at the tomb of Haridasa Thakur makes one's heart melt. Text 102. Chaitanya Bhaktavatsalya Iha Te Jaini Bhaktavanchapurna Koila Nyasi Shivamani. From the incident of Haridasa Thakur's passing away and the great care Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took in commemorating it, one can understand just how affectionate he is toward his devotees. Although he is the topmost of all sannyasis, he fully satisfied the desire of Haridasa Thakur. Sheshakale dila danre darshana sparshana tanre kole kari koila apane nartana. At the last stage of Haridasa Thakur's life, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave him his company and allowed him to touch him. Thereafter, he took the body of Haridasa Thakur on his lap and personally danced with him. Out of his causeless mercy, he personally covered the body of Haridasa Thakur with sand and personally begged alms from the shopkeepers. Then he conducted a great festival to celebrate the passing away of Haridasa Thakur. Text 105. Mahabhagavata Haridasa Parama Vidvan Saubhagya Lagi Age Karila Prayan. Haridasa Thakur was not only the topmost devotee of the Lord, but also a great and learned scholar. It was his great fortune that he passed away before Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Srila Prabhupada's purport. Haridasa Thakur is mentioned here as the most learned scholar, Parama Vidvan. Actually, the most important science to know is the science of getting out of the clutches of material existence. Anyone who knows this science must be considered the greatest learned person. Anyone who knows the temporary situation of this material world and is expert in achieving a permanent situation in the spiritual world, who knows that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is beyond the jurisdiction of our experimental knowledge, is understood to be the most learned scholar. Haridasa Thakur knew this science perfectly. Therefore, he is described in this connection as Parama Vidvan. He personally preached the importance of chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, which is approved by the revealed scriptures, as stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 5, Text 24. Iti pumsar pita Vishnu bhaktischennava lakshana kriyeta bhagavat yadha tanmanye dittamuttamam. There are 9 different processes of devotional service to Krishna, the most important being Shravanam Kirtanam, hearing and chanting. Haridasa Thakur knew this science very well, and he can therefore be called technically Sarva Shastraditi. Anyone who has learned the essence of all the Vedic scriptures is to be known as a first-class educated person with full knowledge of all Shastra. Caitanya Charitra Amritera Sindhu Kanamana Triptakare Araeka Bindu. The life and characteristics of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are exactly like an ocean of nectar, one drop of which can please the mind and ear. Bhava Sindhutari Bare Achaya Rachita Shradha Kari Shunase Chaitanya Charitra. Anyone who desires to cross over the ocean of nescience, please hear with great faith the life and characteristics of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then the final verse of this chapter is verse 108. There's exactly 108 texts in this chapter. Text 108, Sri Rupa Raghunatha Pade Yara Asha Chaitanya Charitamrita Kahe Krishna Das. Praying at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa and Sri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, I, Krishna Das, narrate Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, following in their footsteps. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports to the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Antya-lila, 11th chapter, describing the passing of Haridasa Thakura. Srila Haridasa Thakura ki jai. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai.
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thanks for your association. Well, that was spiritually intensely beautiful there. So would anyone like to share anything or ask any questions? Comment, share, real experience. I'm going to get the picture of Lord Chaitanya dancing with Haridasa Thakur. Hey, hey. Here's the picture of Lord Chaitanya dancing with Haridasa Thakur. His body. Which one? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, David.
Hare Krishna, George.
I just wanted to express how moved I was in hearing some of the verses, especially right before he gave up his life air, how it said he drank the sweetness of the Lord's face, and then tears flowed from his eyes. That was very touching, very moving for me. And I also experienced some envy because of, what is the surest way of thinking or remembering the Lord at the time of death other than having him right in front of you. So yeah, I experienced some envy there, but I'm gonna think of it as spiritual envy.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thanks for sharing. Yeah. Special pastime, and Prabhupada often emphasizes that Arjuna or Haridasa Thakur, they intrinsically have no advantage over us. Of course, their advantage is that they choose pure devotion, and we get to choose that too. But that Krishna, Lord Chaitanya, they're fully present when we're chanting Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Just in this past hour, right? This past hour, 45 minutes, hour and a half, we're experiencing. We're having experience of Lord Chaitanya Haridasa Thakur. So of course, so there's no difference. At the same time, your envy is well founded because there is a difference. Like there's different forms of Krishna and Lord Chaitanya, and they're all non-different. And at the same time, there's distinction. There's distinction. Okay? Reminds me of the passing away. Yeah, that's what Lord Chaitanya and the devotees were saying. That Haridasa Thakur's passing away was completely reminiscent of the passing away of Bhishma Dev, as described in chapter 9 of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Yes, exactly. Bhishma Dev was meditating on the form of Krishna. So Krishna has unlimited forms, and the form with which he's most accessible to us is through his names, Hare Krishna. And the forms are one and identical, and at the same time there's distinction. That's true too. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai. Srila Haridasa Thakur ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you all. Thanks for absorbing yourself in the pastimes of Haridasa Thakura.